Twister was a whirlwind of a movie that swept us into the thrilling world of storm chasing. It inspired a new generation of meteorologists.
In 1996, I get a chance to see Twister for the first time. I got my license about, almost a year later, and I became a storm chaser.
Left us with unforgettable catchphrases.
I gotta go, Julia, we got cows.
And now, after a 28-year calm, the storms are brewing once again. Twisters, the highly anticipated sequel, will be released next month, and it promises to be even more turbulent and exhilarating than its predecessor. Today we're going off the radar and into the suck zone with one of the original Twister storm chasers, Wendle Josepher.
Everybody poured their heart and soul into it.
She'll share behind-the-scenes stories from the first movie set, give us a glimpse into the wild world of Twister fandom, and stir up excitement for the new film.
The love for the movie, people just have so much gratitude for us. It's humbling.
So as Bill Paxton would say,
tighten your seatbelt.
So join us for this unforgettable episode and we'll weather the storm of nostalgia and anticipation together. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie, and you're listening to Off the Radar, a production of the National Weather Desk. On the show, we dig deep into topics about weather, climate, the ocean, space, and much more. Our goal is to help you better understand the weather and to love it as much as we do. Hi everyone, happy June! We are just getting started with hurricane season, but tornado season is still underway in many parts of the country. And if you're a meteorologist or just a weather fanatic, you've undoubtedly seen Twister, starring Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton, among many others, including today's guest, Wendle Josepher. Now, it came out in 1996. It was a blockbuster then, and it holds on to popularity today. It tells the story of a group of storm chasers on a mission to get data from inside a tornado by using what they call Dorothy to release sensors into the Twister. Now, as far-fetched as that may sound, it was actually based on real research going on at the National Severe Storms Laboratory at the time. So I spoke to Sean Waugh from NSSL recently, and he confirmed that they did work closely with the filmmakers on the sequel as well.
So it's going to be dramatic. It's exciting. It's high octane. It's very energetic. But I will say that there was a tremendous amount of effort put into it to make the film as real as possible. It ties into a lot of current real research that's going on in the scientific community. It's got a lot of themes in it. It's got a lot of great callbacks to the original movie. I was very involved with it, and that's probably the most that I can say right now. But it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see everybody's reaction to it when it comes out later on this summer.
If you want to hear more about all of the research being done at the National Severe Storms Laboratory, make sure you check out the episode of Off the Radar called The Future of Tornado Science. You'll hear a lot more from Sean there. If you're a fan of Twister, you'll love today's episode because we're getting all the dirt from the movie set of the original film from one of the stars, Wendle Josepher. Wendle plays Haynes in the movie, which you may remember her as singing the show tune Oklahoma during one of the chase scenes. Wendle was such a genuine person and an open book with a great memory, so you're going to love her stories from 1996. Thanks for listening and enjoy this journey back in time with Wendle Josepher. I'm so excited. I slip into a lot of people's DMs. They rarely respond. So thank you for responding. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't respond to most of them too. I just go by gut. It's all instinctual. And a lot of times I don't even see DMs. I literally get dozens, and on Facebook, I have hundreds of unlooked at, unanswered. But some of them I look at. Some of them I'm like, oh my God, I met that guy at Waukita, but I'll save it for But thank you for asking.
Gosh, Okay, yay. All right, let's get into it. Wendle Josepher, I'm so excited to have you on. Just going to geek out for just a second and let you know that Twister was a huge pivotal thing in my life. I became a meteorologist because of this movie. And so I've seen your face just constantly, especially in my teenage years. I watched Twister over and over and over and over again. numerous times in the theater, and then, as recently as like 2 weeks ago. So it's a constant in my life, and it has been for the past 25, 30 years, however long ago it was. So thank you so much for being on a weather podcast, which I'm sure you've done before. I'm sure you're familiar with people approaching you about Twister, but I'd love to go back and hear about the history of, what you remember from the set. So I want to dig into all these things, if you're good with that, and letting me just completely geek out over all the Twister stuff here. So let's start with how you wound up in the movie Twister. Do you remember the audition process and how you wound up in that role? Because that was pretty early on in your career, right?
Yeah. I got an audition. I ended up there in the sort of regular way that actors get jobs in Los Angeles and Hollywood. I haven't had an agent and a manager. They called me because there were no cell phones. There was no email. Okay. Can you imagine it? And
I vaguely remember.
And I remember, talking to them on the payphone at the Broadway Deli when I was waiting tables there, as I did for 4 years, and getting the audition and hanging up and going, okay, I have an audition for Twister. And then as I was waiting tables, I was thinking, what is this about the game? I wonder what part it is that has to do with the game. And I just kept picturing the big mat with all the different colored circles. And it had nothing to do with that. And I worked really hard on the audition. I remember the script said by Michael Crichton and Joss Whedon. And I thought that was super cool because I was a huge, huge Buffy fan. Still am, obviously.
Me too.
Yeah.
That was my other favorite at the time.
Angel. And I was very committed to believing that I was going to wow them in the audition room and get the role of Dusty. That was my intention. I was going to convince them that I was, because we all read for Dusty. We all read Dusty's lines. I feel like I was going to say we had 3 weeks to prepare, but it probably wasn't that long. It was probably 2 weeks. And it just ran the lines incessantly and came up with the character in our own processes that we do. And I remember the day of the audition, I went swimming, I had a massage, I got everything lined up, got to Warner Brothers. I remember lying on my back at the audition. It was casting office, jam pack full of fantastic actors. And I remember I just wanted Dusty. I wanted to play that role. I was like, I'm going to convince them with my acting that it needs to be a female. It's Dusty's me. I am Dusty. And it didn't happen, but that was my memory of. I remember my phone ringing. I remember my agent saying, "You don't have to wait tables anymore," or my manager. And I remember going to some wardrobe fitting, and they told me that I was offered the role for one of the team members. Didn't have a name on the Carrie Elway's team. The Jonas team. So I was like, great. I didn't know. We didn't know anything. And I remember going to some wardrobe fitting at Warner Brothers and looking at all the fun clothes because I like fun clothes. And I was sort of shopping and just being myself. And I remember looking at Jan de Bont, the director, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, hello. I said, hello. And then I remember somehow, I don't remember how it panned out, but going home, and then my manager called me and they said, oh, you've been switched. You have now a character named Haynes, and now you are on the Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, that team. And I was like, okay. And then, of course, decades later, in hindsight, I'm grateful for that. And I'm more of a geeky, nerdy. I mean, those guys were slick. I'm joking around, but it's all, ridiculous.
I can't imagine you being on the other team now. That
I know.
They were buttoned up. They're all wearing the same thing. And then everybody
else.
That,
look at me now. I'm really cool. I'm joking. But I mean, I made friends with so many lovely actors on that. I just remember my birthday and I was turning 30 and Anthony Rapp and Patrick Fischler said, you want to get Indian food? They were so sweet. We sat, they were so beautiful. These two actors that I became friends with. And then And then my guys, the team that I was on, those actors like Todd Field or somebody said to me, like, oh, you're hanging out with Jonah's team. And it was like that on the set. I got dirty looks. People were like giving me the slant eye. Maybe Philip did it a couple times, joking, but kind of serious. And I was like, I remember just getting flack because I was hanging out with Anthony and Patrick. Those are my besties on Twister. And then that team left for filming anyway. And then it was 4 months. And then, the final 2 months, I don't think that team was around. I don't remember very well, but I remember rap. I remember the rap. Like I remember the moment we were wrapped. It was, I have a lot of memories, Emily.
It's amazing given how long ago it was at this point.
I know. I have a crazy memory. Yeah.
You're on set with like a lot of big names too. Like a lot of those people, maybe at the time we didn't realize it, but it was just a huge cast of really talented people. Were you aware of kind of the weight of the situation, or were you just kind of enjoying it and doing your own thing?
Honestly, I wasn't aware at the time. It was 1995, remember? At the time, Helen Hunt was and always in my heart because I just think she's so talented and terrific. She was on Mad About You, and she was a superstar. She's a superstar. So that was really intimidating. Yeah, we were all like, Helen, you've seen it with Helen. Are you nervous? And Bill Paxton, I feel bad because I didn't know his career. I mean, I feel bad now knowing how amazing he is. And I came into, the hugest respect and admiration for the people that I worked with. Yeah, I knew Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller. And
oh, right. I forgot he was in that.
That's more my generation. But yeah, I mean, but I wasn't nervous except for Helen. Everybody was. Everybody's like, how was your scene? How's she? And she's great. She's like an actor. She's amazing. I mean, she just works with you. It wasn't like anything. It was all in our minds.
There was, I think of like the one scene where I think you guys were in a car and Bill Paxton walks by and she looks up at him and you kind of look up to watch the situation. And then she looks down and then you look down real quick too. Like nothing was said during that scene, but it was like huge. Just the facial expressions among everybody.
I remember that scene, Emily, like yesterday. I remember shooting it.
Were you directed to do the look the way that you did it?
No, I mean, we weren't directed at all. They just did a phenomenal job with casting. Just these actors, because I think that's my almost one of my biggest takeaways from this look, my perception and feeling this movie like 30 years later, 29 years later for me, how amazing everybody was to work with in retrospect. You don't realize it. And then when you work for the next, 29 years, and then you go, oh gosh, everybody was so focused and we weren't aware what we were doing at the time.
I'm curious, leading into shooting, did you do any research? Like, I need to get into the mindset of a storm chaser. Did you think about that part at all? As far as, I wonder what it's like to be a female storm chaser in the mid 90s, because there weren't really very many at the time. Like Helen Hunt paved the way for this role that, now women have, there are a lot of them, but at the time it was very rare. So I'm curious if you did any kind of character research in that respect.
Yes. I love your question. As soon as I was cast, I hightailed it over to the Santa Monica Public Library. I was riding my bike up there all the time, took out tons of books, and that's what I do. With a role, I just get into it as much as I can on all fronts, spiritually, mentally, intellectually, physically. And yeah, I took out tons of books. I started reading. I became a student meteorologist to be. So I'd carry my books to set and my notebooks, and I put them in the prop backpack.
And then you're in Wakita shooting, middle of nowhere. Can you tell me what it was like to be in that town? Like there was nothing there, right? I did a podcast with the people that run the Twister Museum last year. And I guess I just didn't realize how remote that was out there.
Yeah, Warner Brothers, those location scouts, how incredible are they? I mean, they found the whole look of the movie. Well, we landed in Ponca City. We weren't staying in Waukita. So we had it felt like about exactly an hour to the set every day. I remember, they picked us up at 6. We had to be in makeup and hair 7. I just remember being in shock. Because I remember walking into the makeup trailer and everybody, remember Jeremy would bring his pillow and everybody would sleep on the hour from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then we had an hour back. So it was a real bonding time between, with everybody, the whole crew. I remember the makeup people, the hair people, the costume people. So yeah, we get home at 9, everybody, good night, go home, eat your dinner, and then just go to bed, flop to bed and then wake up at 5:30 and be out on the sidewalk again at 6. We work 6 days a week. I just remember walking into the makeup trailer one day. I don't remember. But I just remember, was walking and going, just being exhausted. It's like, good morning. And then I just remember Helen laughing and going, Wendle, it's just everybody just appreciating my honesty because I just wasn't happy. I was just exhausted. We were exhausted. I was exhausted. But yeah, we were in shock. We stayed in Punk. We landed and I remember, Emily, this is intense. We flew from LA to Dallas and caught another connecting flight in Dallas, obviously, to Oklahoma City on April 17th, 1995. That was the bombing. People,
wow.
I remember walking through the Dallas airport and something was going on. Everybody was crowded around the TV sets, and that was the day of the bombing. So we flew in very somber, very serious. So we were in shock because of that. So then we landed and we stayed in Oklahoma City. I remember we stayed in Oklahoma City for a couple weeks. Then we went to Ponca City, and that was when we were in shock because a lot of us were living in Los Angeles and New York. Coming from those two cities, going to Ponca City, population 2,000 or whatever it was.
So if it was April, it must have been severe weather season too. Were you getting some crazy weather while you're shooting this movie?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Very scary. I remember I would be in my apartment where they put us up in a little 1-bedroom apartments. And I remember being in the bathtub after a long day and all the electricity would go off and the sirens would come on outside. And I have a crazy imagination and I just couldn't stop thinking, oh, here we go. I could just see the front of the LA Times cover. Crazy, quirk accident happens. The crew of a Warner Brothers movie, dies in a strange, crazy tornado. No, because it was really scary. Yeah. And a lot of the actors would go. I remember maybe I want to say Philip or Carrie would go with the storm chasers or go by themselves to chase real tornadoes. That was why we shot from May to August. Yes.
But the special effects were pretty amazing given the time period. Even I watched it a couple of weeks ago and I was like, wow, this is really impressive for 1996.
Yes, I agree with you. I hadn't seen the movie in about 25 years. I hadn't watched it since whenever the screening was, 1996. I hadn't watched it until Sean Whalen, who plays Sanders, calls me out of the blue about 3 years ago. And he says, I'm going down to Waukita for the Twister Movie Museum's 25th anniversary. I want you to come with us. I thought, yeah, well, I don't know. We're in the middle of a COVID pandemic, aren't we? And so I thought about it for about a minute and then called Sean back and committed. And we went and we had to say the word fabulous. Did you go to that one?
No,
were you there?
But I saw pictures. And what was that like reliving that after not being part of that world for 25 years?
Well, as I said, I hadn't seen the movie. So to prepare for that event, I watched Twister. And to get to your point about the special effects, I hadn't seen it. And I feel like such a geek, but I went down, I watched it a couple of days before we went, and I went down there. I was like one of the fans. I said, it's beautiful. It's amazing. When I watched it, I thought, this is really fun. It's a really great, fun movie that looks gorgeous. And the tornadoes look real. And yeah, it's cheesy dialogue, but it's almost bad that it's good now.
Right,
and also,
exactly.
it's so bad that it's good. And my takeaway is that the actors, everybody poured their heart and soul into it. And so it's a testament to what an actor can do with and I don't want to say bad writing, but it's very highly dramatic, and everybody was amazing. And maybe I just hadn't seen it in 25 years. And so I just thought it was, I went down there as a fan. I couldn't believe, I was like, God, what Philip did with Dusty. I never could have done that. I'm glad he got the role. I'm joking about myself. Because I wanted to play Dusty. And I thought to myself, no way could I ever have done anything like that. Just to take words on a page and do what Philip, he does that all the time. And everybody did it. Everybody. And I watched it, and I don't like watching myself. I'm always like, oh, I shudder. I really don't like it. But I thought, you did a pretty, you did an okay job. Like, it's believable, but everybody was so good. And one other thing I wanted to mention is that Todd Field and I were invited to go into the recording studio to sing the Oklahoma song for the Sound Twister original movie score, not the soundtrack, but the score. And so we went and we sang. We had a great time. This was about 6 months after we came back. I remember Todd's like, come on, Wendle. And I remember Jan de Bont walked really fast. I remember with my short legs running to keep up with him. And we ran, I don't know where we were, some office building in West LA. We followed him up to the sound mixing area. And Todd, and it was so cool. I just feel grateful that I got to just be there. I remember we sat in the back and we watched a really interesting meeting between Industrial Light and Magic up in San Francisco, up in Marin, right? And a conference meeting. This is in 95. So before any Zoom or any of this technology, I remember watching the screen, and the screen was broken up, and the very top layer was the Marin crew, the San Francisco Industrial Light and Magic crew. At the bottom, you could see us, the people sitting in the room, and the main portion of the screen was the movie. And I remember watching Jan paint it. He was like, this needs to be more green, darker gray over here, and more purple. And he was painting frame by frame, and they were doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of blew up as far as, it was an action movie. It did great at the time, but it never really lost momentum, I don't feel like. And maybe it's just the crew I hang out with, but it has kept its popularity for decades and decades. And not only that, but has like this following of people who they're all my age. I have so many people that are my age that are meteorologists, who are meteorologists for the pure reason that we saw Twister when we were 14. So did you have any idea, as this was happening and then after this was happening, what this was going to become, how big this was going to become?
No. Yeah. We have no idea. And so, but I will share with you that I've gone to Waukeeta twice, once with Sean, both times with Sean Whalen in 2021. And then we went the following September in 2022. And that's when I learned, and my heart just burst open, because all of your age, I call you guys kids. We're all kids. All you guys, all the meteorologists and weather people and passionate storm chasers came up to the table and introduced themselves. But they were just so pure and great, full of gratitude. And we all took pictures. We took pictures with all of them. And I had no idea. I took a lot of photos with students who are now at university and college studying to be meteorologists and storm chasers and weather people. I was, Emily, just absolutely moved. So moved. I said, I was in tears the whole day in Waukeeta, the first time both times, because the love for the movie and people just have so much gratitude for us. And it's humbling. We did it to make some money as an actor. And because when you get a job, you say yes. and then it became something, bigger and beautiful. And wow, that's always amazing. And it doesn't happen most of the time. Just feeling so much gratitude and love that the whole thing happened. And just gratitude for Jan de Bont and Risa Brayman Garcia, who cast it, and Steven Spielberg, who executive produced it, and Kathleen Kennedy, and Ian Bryce, and the whole crew, everybody who worked on it. I learned, in the decades after I did it, how phenomenal these individuals are professionally, personally. And so I've come into a lot of gratitude myself. But no, I had no idea when we were doing it that it would inspire like you and a lot of people. And it's just extremely fulfilling, and it makes you so happy on the deepest level to know that you've inspired people. As an actor, that's like one of the greatest, as in any profession, just to know that you've helped and inspired people. So basic. I'm very, very grateful and happy about it.
It's cool too, the way that the filmmakers did so much research into the real science that was going on at the time, as far as tornado research, and incorporated that into the movie, and it became, the plot line. And from what I understand, that's the case with Twisters too. The new one coming out is that they did consult with NSSL on, current science and a possible plot line. So I can't wait to see what's going on there. You don't have any involvement in the second movie, do you?
I don't.
Are you going to go see it?
Yeah, of course. I can't wait. It'd be incredible. I mean, yeah.
I would love to be in a movie theater and turn and see you watching Twisters. People are going to freak out.
Well, I was thinking maybe Sean and I will try to go together.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
When you get recognized, is it mostly for Twister?
Yeah.
Did Twister give you a little kickstart with your career? Did that come first, and then some of the other things came after that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Twister was huge. Yeah, it was a huge catalyst.
Because then I feel like you popped up in a lot of stuff shortly after that in the mid to late 90s.
Absolutely. It was it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
I remember when I got my first job, which I crashed an audition 2 blocks from my house in Venice. I crashed. Arnold Schwarzenegger was directing a movie called Christmas in Connecticut, a remake of a Barbara Stanwyck movie. And I remember in the audition room, I just remember Arnold in there sitting behind a table and going, oh, you're so funny. They want to be in my movie. And so to have the offer in the room was just so fun. So that was and so he directed it. So then the next Monday I was in an elevator with Tony Curtis, Diane Cannon, Chris Christopherson. Yeah. And so things were cooking, and I was, only going for big projects. Remember, I met Rob Reiner. I did a fun one day job with a 12-year-old Elijah Wood and a 13-year-old Scarlett Johansson. Jeez, these kids. It was a film called North. So I worked with Rob Reiner. And so I was working, I was getting, jobs. So I was in the mix and getting great auditions. And then Twister came in. Yes, it was very much propelled me into, meeting with Ron Howard for many films, and auditioning for many films. And then I did did a great film with Ron Howard called Ed TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was so cute.
It was really
Matthew
cute.
McConaughey, right?
With Matthew, yes. I love working with him and Jenna Elfman. But yes, Twister was. Yeah, I mean, I just can't believe how, like you said, I feel like it's even gotten more appreciation as the years have gone on, because all you guys who saw the movie when you were 6 and 9 and 12, you've loved it up in the last couple decades, and you've introduced your kids to it. So that's
the big one. Is my son is now old enough to watch Twister, and that was I'm watching him watch it. Is he appreciating this? He has to take this all in and love it as much. And he loved it, which was great. But but he also loved all like the son of a bitches,
I know, like those actors. I mean, I just crack up because those actors, I have just such respect for them. All the actors in Twister, everybody just really just like, I remember we do takes and Bill Paxton would be like, we do a take and Bill would go, he'd make a little out of the ballpark. He was rallying the troops. He was the greatest leader and group guy. And he was just so Mr. Positivity. He was so supportive of me. And, I just remember being snobby, be like, how does he know how good it was? I don't want to know how it is. I'm not looking. But yes, let me ask you, how old is your son that he's
10. He's almost 11.
I was going to ask you what the age, because a lot of kids would come to the table when we were in Waukita last 2 times, and these kids about 5 would be like, I loved you in the movie. And I would say, you watched it? Is that okay? Weren't you scared?
No. Well, so he wasn't scared as much as there was just like some language. So I waited a little bit there until at least he knew all the bad words. Yes. Yeah. But it's funny because there's even stuff now that I watch it back and I'm like, I don't know that I picked up on that when I was 14. Just sort of like the divorce talk, and I just didn't care about it then. It was not something on my radar. So
I'm thinking of a certain word language. It's part of the human anatomy. It makes us alive. There is that one, Jamie Gertz said it. So,
yes, yep. And for me, I was like, oh, she says the anatomical word, but yes, the fact that she was a sex therapist, that was the adult theme stuff that I was maybe holding off.
She was that
she
her?
Was a sex therapist, yeah.
A sex therapist? I don't remember that. Wow.
Yes.
It's funny. I thought she was just a therapist. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Reproductive therapist, I believe is how it was phrased.
Funny.
And that's right before the cows started flying. Twister definitely, and it incites fear in people, but maybe in a good way too, because I was so scared of tornadoes, but then also I was like, oh, I could chase them instead of them chasing me. And then I'm turning the tables here on these tornadoes and on weather in general. So I still get kind of fearful. I still have never seen a tornado.
I have. I've seen a real one.
Did you see it in Waukita when you were filming Twister?
No, I remember seeing it from our front porch in Denver, where I grew up. I grew up in suburban Denver in Englewood, and I just remember that image. Yep.
So at the time, it's funny because my parents would make fun of me for watching it so much. They would say like, "This is ridiculous. This isn't realistic." And then as I got older, I was like, forget that. I'm like, because I started meeting people that also loved it. And then I got even older and I realized, well, my parents were wrong on a lot of this stuff because there is some accuracies here. And then, just some of the really heartfelt moments still, and the music still like brings me back to, I thought the soundtrack was so amazing and I still have it. Like that was one of my first CDs, and I remember just having that in my car at all times and all summer long, just blasting some of that music. And it brings me back. It makes me think of all of you like tearing through a cornfield.
I know, just talking about it with you, it just seriously amazes me. It never ceases to amaze me how a script, we're talking about pieces of words on a page, turn into that. That's the power of cinema, the power of filmmaking. A lot of stuff, Emily, that I did, I would say like 50% or more of my dialogue and my scenes were due, thank you, Todd Field, because he invited me into his solo scenes. And I remember him saying, we should both sing. Why don't we both sing? Because I'm supposed to sing Oklahoma. You want to sing with me? And I was like, I was born to sing. I'm a musical theater person. I was like, okay, yes. And so, but we wasn't in the script. A lot of the scenes in the van with me and Todd were just originally solo scenes on Todd. And he brought me in to the scene with him. And Jan DeBond, the director, followed, with cameras. And so I'm in it a lot more than I would have been had I not been randomly paired with Todd Field.
Is there anything else you want to share about your experience on Twisters or storm chasing in general? Or can you share what you're doing now? I see some artwork behind you.
Yes. I've been doing little cat paintings. Yeah, no, thanks. It's been a really fun it's been so fun, really fun talking with you. You're awesome. Right now, recently I've been working on commercials, which I'm grateful for because they pay my rent and my bills. And I get to work with super talented directors and other actors and a lot of voiceover stuff, voiceover roles too, animation, fun characters.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, whenever I see an audition, I'm like, oh, I wonder what kind of role it is. You never know. It's going to be interesting. And yes, I love painting cats. Twister fans would find me on Instagram. That's why I joined Instagram to show the cat paintings. And wonderful Twister fans who are cat fans somebody found me and said, would you do this? I want to give my boyfriend, a Christmas gift. And so I painted her boyfriend's beautiful, beautiful cat. And that happened, a few times. But you can go to wendlejosephart.com if you want to see more cat paintings. That's the temporary website until I get a bigger website going. But you can see the cat paintings. But anyway, if you want to request, I have great photos of the cast of me, and I'm happy to sign one. But just my point is that the pure love that comes in from this movie is astounding. And the love that the fans feel and express to me and to all the actors about how much they love the movie and how much they've impacted you and your lives and your careers. It never happens. It doesn't happen a lot. And there's nothing greater than that to me. It's just the power of art when you have an intention and you want to help and want to do something. And it all, look how it's rolled out. So I'm just super grateful because it's the love that we get from the fans. There's nothing better than that.
Well, thank you, Wendle. And thank you for reliving it with us, too.
You guys come to me with your great energy. How can I not say, hi, what do you want to talk about? And also, I have this crazy memory. So fans love, hearing stuff. When I was in Waukita 3 years ago, 2 years ago, at the end of the day, after signing autographs, I just hung out with all these real life storm chasers and their vehicles. Some of them are Twister replicas and their own storm chasing vehicles. I think some of these guys are in the new Twisters movie doing background roles and hung out with them, and they got me going. They just pulled all these funny stories out of me, and it was just so fun. It's just good energy. You guys are the Twister fans, awesome energy. It just blows me away. Your guys' love and gratitude, positivity, and I'm just giving it back. I'm just a mirror for this whole phenomenon. So thank you.
I want to go watch the movie again, Matt.
I know, it's making me want to watch it again.
Off the Radar is a production of the National Weather Desk. Make sure you're following the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. New episodes published every Tuesday. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. We'd also love you to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let us know what you think of the show and give me ideas for future episodes. Big thank you so much to Wendle Josepher for her time today. It was so much fun getting to know her. Also, thanks to Sean Waugh from NSSL and to Warner Brothers for the clips at the beginning of the episode. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Make it a great day.